Hello guys. In this video, we're going to talk about the lymphatic drainage of abdominal organs. But to be more specific, because here we are in the digestive system, we're going to talk about the drainage of the organs of digestion. All right, otherwise the other organs will be explained in their respective modules. Now, when we stopped our talking in the general idea of the lymphatic system, we stopped at the right lymphatic duct, which drains from the upper right side of the body, and the thoracic duct that drains from everywhere else. Now, we need to know what trunks drain into these, and what are the names of the trunks, what are the names of the lymph nodes based on the organ itself. Now, to talk about the abdominal organ, remember, you guys, that at the end of the day, your final passage is the same. The final path is the same. After getting your lymph from the organ, getting into the trunks, eventually you need to drain into the pre-aortic lymph nodes, which are the celiac or superior mesenteric or inferior mesenteric, because they lie around the arteries, the celiac artery. Remember when I told you in the general idea that here we are following the arterial supply, because in the thorax and abdomen, the lymph vessels, they accompany the arteries. So the pre-aortic lymph nodes are the lymph nodes that are grouped around the arteries of the digestive organs, which are the celiac, the superior mesenteric, and inferior mesenteric. After draining into these, they need to drain then into the intestinal lymph nodes, and from there they need to get to the cisterna chyli, which is a big elevated piece or area of your lymphatic drainage, all right? And that continues up as the thoracic duct, and eventually we need to drain into the angle of union of the left internal jugular vein and subclavian vein. Okay, so this final path is the same for all of your organs of digestion. All right. Now, to start off our talk about the organs, we need to talk about the abdominal esophagus, because at that point we are starting our GIT, or our digestive system. Now, where does that drain? Remember, you guys, that the artery that was supplying the abdominal esophagus was the left gastric. So it's very simple and easy to know that the lymph nodes that drain the abdominal esophagus is basically the left gastric, and my final path is the same, the pre-aortic lymph node, which is in this case the celiac. Can you guys see the celiac lymph nodes around the celiac artery? So I have the left gastric, drains the abdominal. It takes the same name of the artery that supplies the abdominal esophagus, and then into the celiac lymph node, and then into the intestinal trunk, and then into the cisterna chyli, and then the thoracic duct, all the way to the junction of the left side between internal jugular and subclavian. Moving into the stomach, if you guys look at the stomach has groups of lymph nodes, and they are all around the stomach. We have superior 2/3 of the stomach that drains into specific groups of lymph nodes, and inferior 1/3 of the stomach that drains into different groups of lymph nodes. What are those names? We have the gastric lymph nodes. It's quite simple and easy, because they are lying at the lesser curvature, and they are called based on the stomach. They are gastric lymph nodes. We have another group of lymph nodes that extend from the spleen all the way to the pancreas. So we call it pancreatico-splenic lymph nodes. All right. So here we have the pancreas at that point, and that is basically around the splenic artery. So the stomach drains into, most of the upper part of the stomach drains into the pancreatico-splenic lymph node. All right. And at the greater curvature, remember that the name of the artery here, you guys, in the stomach video, it was the gastro-omental. Remember that we have left and right gastro-omental arteries. So we have the same name of the lymph nodes at the greater curvature. All right. And then at the pyloric region, I have lymph nodes that they are called superior and inferior pyloric lymph nodes. And then I have group of lymph nodes here. They are related to the duodenum and the pancreas. And remember that we consider the pancreas and duodenum as one functional unit. So that's why the name of lymph nodes here are called pancreatico-duodenal. So I have two pancreatico something, all right? I have pancreatico-splenic, I have pancreatico-duodenal, and then the other group of lymph nodes, their names are based on their location: gastric, gastro-omental lymph nodes, and anterior and posterior pyloric. After that, they all drain into, remember, our final path. It's our pre-aortic lymph node, which is the celiac lymph node, and then intestinal trunk, and then cisterna chyli, thoracic duct, and at the left angle between the junction between internal jugular vein and subclavian, it drains into the heart. What's in green, guys, I want you to know that these lymph nodes, which are the gastro-omental and the pancreatico-duodenal, they drain into the hepatic lymph node before they drain into the celiac. All right. So remember that the gastro-omental and the pancreatico-duodenal, all right, because they are going all the way to drain into the hepatic first, and then they continue their journey as the others. All right. Now moving on, let's see what happens to the bile duct. Now it's very quite simple and easy that what drains the bile duct is the cystic nodes, okay? Because cystic means something related to the gallbladder. And then that cystic lymph nodes, they need to drain into the hepatic and the node of omental foramen. And it's also simple and easy because you guys know that the gallbladder lies on the liver, and the bile duct is running in the in front of the epiploic foramen. So I have nodes of epiploic foramen or omental foramen. So cystic, and then I drain into the hepatic and node of omental foramen, and then I go all the way to the celiac, intestinal, cisterna chyli, thoracic duct, and then the left angle. And what about the gallbladder? It's very easy. It drains into the cystic nodes and the hepatic nodes. So the gallbladder, all right, itself, it drains into two nodes. Okay, and from there, I need to go to the celiac, because remember, you guys, we are in the abdomen, so we are following the arteries here. All right, so you guys know that the hepatic artery is a branch of celiac, right? So I need to drain into the celiac nodes, the nodes around the celiac artery, and then intestinal trunk, and then cisterna chyli, thoracic duct, and then to the left angle. Moving on to the pancreas. The pancreas, remember, you guys, the two groups that we just memorized them in the previous slide when we talked about the stomach. We have two groups of lymph nodes that they have the name pancreatico. One towards the spleen and one towards the duodenum. So I have pancreatico-splenic lymph nodes and I have pancreatico-duodenal lymph nodes. And other than that, remember that the head of pancreas, what lies superior to it, is the pylorus. So of course, the pancreas can drain into the pyloric lymph nodes. So these are the groups of lymph nodes that drains lymph from the pancreas. And from there, again, this is related to the foregut. So of course, we're going to drain into the celiac lymph nodes, and then intestinal, then cisterna chyli, thoracic duct, and then to the left angle, which is basically the junction between, again, the left internal jugular vein and the left subclavian. Now, moving on to the liver, we have groups of lymph nodes around the liver, and these nodes are basically based on the colors that we have. So we have the left gastric lymph nodes, we have mediastinal, we have celiac, right? We have the cystic. Okay, so everything around your liver can receive lymphatics from the liver. We have the phrenic related to the diaphragm, we have the lumbar. Okay, so if you guys can remember any names or any of the things around the liver, you would expect to know that the liver is draining into it, okay? Because liver is an important organ. It's related to all of the structures around it. So all of these lymph nodes are draining the liver. And from that, because the hepatic artery is a branch of celiac, so of course, they all drain into the celiac lymph nodes, and then intestinal trunk, cisterna chyli, thoracic duct, and then to the left angle. Now moving on, coming to the duodenum. In the duodenum, we have posteriorly group of lymph nodes that we call them the superior mesenteric lymph nodes. All right. And then I have superior and inferior pyloric, of course, they drain anteriorly. And then anteriorly also I have pancreatic duodenum. Remember, you guys, when I told you previously that the duodenum is always and the head of pancreas are considered as one functional unit. And remember when we talked about the pancreas, we said that we have two pancreatic something and the pyloric group, right? But because the pancreatico-splenic is away from the duodenum, it's not related to it, so that drains only the pancreas. The leftover two lymph nodes, groups of lymph nodes, which are the pyloric and the pancreatico-duodenal, they not only drain lymph from the pancreas, they also drain from the duodenum. Um, so this is anteriorly. But posteriorly, it drains into the superior mesenteric, because remember that the inferior pancreatico-duodenal is artery, was a branch of superior mesenteric artery. So the posterior part of the duodenum drains into the superior mesenteric lymph node. And of course, if we go at that point, it means we're going to go directly to the intestinal trunk. And then we follow the same path. But if we are at names based on branches of arteries coming from the celiac, it means we need to drain into the celiac lymph node, and then we go all the way up. So here we again are following the arterial supply, and we are following the same names, okay? Now we have the jejunum and ilium. So in jejunum and ilium, we have three groups of lymph nodes, okay? What are these groups? We have the superior central lymph nodes. So this is the jejunum and ilium. So if I have a group of lymph nodes, they are proximal, very near to the superior mesenteric, we call them superior central lymph nodes. They are at the center and they are superiorly. This is draining the superior central area around the SMA, okay, the superior central lymph nodes. And then I have another group of lymph nodes we call the juxta-intestinal. The name juxta means neighboring. So because they are all over distributed around the intestinal arcades. You guys remember the arterial arcades? If you don't know them, go ahead and watch the video Anatomy of the Small Intestine. So you will find the juxta-intestinal lymph node. They drain all of the areas of the small intestine around the arterial arcades. And then the last group is the ileocolic, because they kind of be around the ileocolic artery. So these are the groups of lymph nodes that drain into, of course, the artery that supplies the midgut, which is the small intestine, which is the superior mesenteric. So from these lymph nodes, we drain into the superior mesenteric, and then intestinal trunk, cisterna chyli, thoracic duct, and left angle. And of course, you guys know how do they look like, because we already explained that at the beginning of the video. Now moving to the large intestine, I decided to make them this way so you can see that you have groups of lymph nodes that lie on para means on the side of the colon, colic, all right? Or it could be above the colon, which is epicolic. So if we're talking about ascending or descending colon or sigmoid, I'm draining into the paracolic lymph nodes and the epicolic lymph nodes. All right, so the yellow ones are the paracolic, and the above ones, the reddish brownish, these are epicolic lymph nodes. These lymph nodes eventually drain into if we are at the ascending colon all the way to the junction between the right 2/3 of transverse colon and left 1/3, it means this is my midgut. So it means the artery that supplies the midgut is the superior mesenteric artery. So the name of lymph node that drains the paracolic and epicolic of ascending colon and transverse to the 2/3, medial 2/3, they drain into the superior mesenteric, and then I follow the same way. However, if I'm in the descending colon or sigmoid, I need to drain into the artery of, lymph nodes named by the artery that supplies the hindgut, because the descending colon and sigmoid are parts of hindgut. So inferior mesenteric, and then we are following the same way. However, what's the idea of the transverse colon here? The transverse colon, you guys, is supplied by the middle colic artery, right? So the name of the lymph nodes that drains lymph from the transverse colon is basically the middle colic. And what about superior or inferior mesenteric? Again, if I'm at the right two-third, I'm following the midgut system. If I'm in the left one-third, I'm following the hindgut system, and then I'm following the same way. I hope you guys, everything is simple, clear, and easy. I hope by now you know the lymphatic drainage and the idea of the lymphatic system and what does it mean and how do they drain. If you're still not sure about one of the organs of digestion, go ahead and listen to the video one more time, and I'm sure you will be able to tell them once you finish the video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next videos.